Good morning and welcome to SSUC's online gathering. Trees have so much wisdom to teach us. So much, in fact, that we've been sharing that wisdom of the trees since the beginning of May, and it will take us all the way up to the September long weekend. What a lot of wisdom they have to teach us. This morning, we're going to focus on what we can learn from their height, what we can learn about the different points of view that each tree has, even though rooted in their one small place in the world. From the deep, dark depths of the forest floor to the airy heights of their topmost branches, they have much to share with us about the world that they see. So welcome this morning. Welcome to SSUC's online gathering. Even online, we want to welcome all people to our time together. SSUC is a community where all people are welcome. All cultures, all ages, all abilities, all sizes, all genders, all sexualities, all religions, all people. You are welcome, and we are together. And so we take this time outside the building of SSUC in Edmonton to have some gratitude for the land. Wherever it is that you find yourself today, may we have gratitude for the place and the special history that imbues this place that we call home. We give thanks for the First Nations people that have called this home, that have so much to teach us, and with whom we partner in listening, in dialogue, in reconciliation. It is this land that has much to teach us, and for which we are so grateful. As we join with one another today, we invite you to light a candle as we will light ours as we move inside, and as we join together in singing and in speaking words that will gather us together and offer us the wisdom of the trees today. Welcome, everyone. Our time for all ages this morning is a time to pause, a time to just take a moment, rest into where we're at, rest into the chair we're sitting in, rest into the time of day, that we're experiencing this together. Rest into this very moment. It's a time to focus ourselves. And no matter our age, we can do that. We can try to clear our minds of all the crazy thoughts that are going on in our heads. We can stop for a moment trying to think about what we have to do in an hour or later today, or the many things we have to do before the week is over. No matter our age or our stage, we can all try and practice the art of focus, of rest, of mindfulness. Today, share a book, not so much a story as an exercise, as a way into a time of rest. It's called Take the Time, Mindfulness for Kids by Maud Rogers. And as we look at these pictures, I invite you to either follow along or to simply close your eyes and hear the words and use this as a time of centering. When everything is topsy-turvy, with my head spinning and my feet up in the air, I slow down and take the time to be with friends, to stick to things I know, to close my eyes when I am hugged, to let the cold tickle my cheeks, to do things that make me feel good. I take the time to think about what I am doing. Before I share a thought, before I blurt something out, I take the time to fix my little mistakes and to be sad if I need to. I take the time to think about what I've dreamt. To listen to silence. To heal my hurt feelings. I take the time to love. I take the time to feel and know that I am well.
The parable of the weeds and the wheat. Matthew 13, 24 to 30. Jesus told a parable. The spiritual life is like a person who sowed good seed in their field. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, weeds also appeared. The farmhand said to the owner, "We thought you sowed good seed in your field, but there are weeds. Do you want us to pull them up?" "No," the owner said, "because while you are pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. Then I will tell the harvesters to collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned. Then gather the wheat and bring it into the barn." In this simple first century story, may we find wisdom for our living.
In J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, along with the wizard Gandalf and 13 dwarves, embark on an epic journey through mines, through forests, through mountains. And I want to read just a little description from Tolkien's book, The Hobbit, as this group makes their way through the forest of Mirkwood. Here's his words. "The path was narrow and wound in and out among the trunks. The light was far behind, and the quiet was so deep that their feet seemed to thump along while all the trees leaned over them and listened. It wasn't long before they grew to hate the forest as heartily as they had hated the tunnels of the goblins, and it seemed to offer even less hope of an ending. But they had to go on and on, long after they were sick for a sight of the sun and of the sky, and longed for the feel of the wind on their faces. There was no movement of air down under the forest roof, and it was everlastingly still and dark and stuffy. The hobbit, who liked holes to make a house in, but not to spend summer days in, felt that he was being slowly suffocated. 2 days later, they found themselves in a valley filled almost entirely with a mighty growth of oaks. They asked if there was no end to this accursed forest, and they thought that somebody ought to climb a tree and see above the forest roof and have a look around. They chose the tallest tree and decided that that somebody meant Bilbo. And so he climbed. And when he finally reached the top, his eyes were nearly blinded by the light. The sun was shining so bright. He saw all around him a sea of color and butterflies everywhere. But more than anything, he enjoyed the feel of the breeze in his hair and on his face. For a moment, there was a view, and it was a good one. It can feel a little bit lately like there is precious little good news. That's not true, of course. There is always good news. But in our humanity, we tend to latch on to the bad news. Media reporting is that way, social media posts are that way, so too are our conversations. There is always some trouble to talk about. We could discuss with our friends the COVID-19 numbers of late. We talk about continued wrestling with racism and privilege. The return to school is a hot topic right about now. And political leadership, well, that's always a hot topic. Scandals and scourges and the like. Also disasters and debacles the world over. So it's easy to name things that upset us. It's easy to list our complaints. It's easy to identify what's getting in the way of the 2020 that we'd like to be having. But there is always good news, and we can't forget it. The forest floor is awfully dark, but there's always a tall tree from which we can see beyond the canopy, see beyond the endless darkness. This is a shot of our backyard and our tallest tree that we know. This is the evergreen that we look upon in all the seasons that dwarfs our house. It's home to squirrels, and at 6 a.m., far too many magpies, and faithful guard to the corner of our yard. Now, I'm no hobbit, and I'm not about to climb this tree, but if I could, I would be able to see my whole neighborhood. I'd probably feel the wind on my face in a different way. I'd see a view and a perspective that I've never seen. Jesus told a parable about weeds and wheat. The farmer plants good wheat seed, but as they begin to sprout, the workers notice that there are weeds as well, and they want to pull them, but the farmer says to leave them for fear of pulling the good plants with them. Seems like sound advice. Wait until they're grown, then the wheat can be separated from the weeds, no problem. It's not the way I was taught to garden, but that's okay. The specifics of the story would have perhaps made a lot more sense if we were a first century audience in this rural farming community who was hearing this story. First of all, we're not talking about industrial farming with huge machines that will harvest the crop. We're talking about farming by hand. As I read research of this story and farming at the time, I read that there was a particularly nasty and noxious weed called the bearded darnel, and that it looked a great deal like wheat. And some scholars wonder if this is the kind of thing farmers and a first century rural audience would have been familiar with when they heard Jesus' story. Evidently, the early sprouts and growth of these two plants are quite identical. But as they grow, the differences become apparent in the fruit. For obvious reasons, then, you'd be afraid to mistakenly throw out the perfectly good wheat when you're trying to get rid of the identical-looking weed. If it's clearer when they're more mature, then why not just leave it? And you'll maximize your harvest. Seems like good advice. This parable, we have to remember, starts out by saying, the spiritual life is like this. In our living, how do we sort the beneficial from the harmful? How do we know the good from the bad? How do we comprehend a good argument from a poor one? How do we tell the difference between a viewpoint worthy of consideration or discarding? There are probably lots of answers to that question. But according to the wisdom we heard this morning, time seems to be one answer. Maybe we can't wait until hindsight is 2020. But giving time to let thoughts mature and let ideas percolate, to let second and third thoughts happen, is perhaps priceless. It really is so hard, it's so easy, rather, to judge another. It's so easy to see the worst in an opposing opinion. It's so easy to generalize and believe the worst about someone's actions. But giving time to ponder and step inside that situation, imagining another's life and the decisions they've had to make, to climb up in a tree and see the 360-degree view, the perspective you've not had time to see, that is advice for a deeper spiritual life. I was amazed at an interaction I had this week with a man whose cousin had been killed by her common-law husband. And although the man was in jail, he was expressing to me his compassion for him, that he didn't know his story, and he didn't know what could possibly lead to him beating his wife in that manner. And yes, he was angry. But more than that, he was curious to understand. I was in awe of that reaction. I thought for myself, maybe I might get there, but it certainly wouldn't be in the week after the death. It might be in a month or a year or a decade. Imagining another's life and the decisions they've had to make. Leaving time for more than a first thought, but a second and a third. Climbing a tree to get the 360-degree view. That really does seem like advice for living a deeper spiritual life. And it would be tragic to discard even one piece of good news that we learn from climbing that tree, especially in a year like we're having. We can't risk relationships because we're sweating the small stuff. We can't risk our health because we're caught up in petty rules or loopholes. We can't miss the forest for the trees. There is always good news and bad. There is tragedy and triumph. There is celebration and lament. Getting lost in one or the other would be to lose our balance. We need to partner with reality. We need to know the world just exactly as it is, warts and all. But our eyes need to be wide open, not just to the dark forest that's right at our feet, but eyes open also to the light that slices through the dark, to find the cracks, to climb the trees and seek the sun. The best advice seems to take every opportunity to highlight goodness, to cast our glance toward the hopeful and to know the direction to set our steps, to find every place we can to enjoy the view. To know that a tree, as much as it's rooted in the dark, loamy soil, also has a view like no other. That it reaches to see the sun. That we can also reach to see the sun and feel the wind on our face. And only then can we have what we'll need to take the next step and continue the journey. If we do both. And so it's in that spirit of awareness that I invite you to respond. What positive sights, experiences, connections are helping you enjoy the view in the midst of today's realities? I invite you to be in touch with us right now, and as we sing the next song, you can text us at the number that's on your screen, 780-200-8286, or email me at chris@smsuc.com. And if in the next few minutes you have a response to this question, we'll share that together with each other. What positive sights, experiences, connections are helping you enjoy the view in the midst of today? In other words, what goodness have you glimpsed? What's made you smile? What is your treetop view that has kept you going this week? I invite you to respond as we sing.
Between
Thank you for those of you who've responded. I just realized how little time that was for you to be able to do anything and get your responses to us. But some of you were very quick on the draw and managed to do it just fine. And so I want to share a few of those with you. It is good for us to talk about all of the good things that we're seeing in this life. As I said, there's plenty of bad news. Let's share the places where the sun is shining. I want to share someone, and this person has texted in that they are having time to spend with family, exploring nature through geocaching. And Natalie texts in, going hiking in the Larch Conservatory with Amanda and our friend Avery yesterday. Beautiful. And Jim writes and says, by learning to Zoom, I have experienced reaching out to people from my home to theirs. Thanks, Jim. We're all getting better at that, certainly. Thank you for that. Sherry Ann has written and said, a virtual invitation by email this morning from a friend and mentor in Washington State to climb the steps of her porch to enjoy some iced tea with her, because it's hot there too. That brought an out loud expression of joy for me. Thank you, Sherry Ann. And Kim writes, Ian and I went on a walk from Alexander Circle in Glenora down a path through an amazing and magical city forest down to the river. It certainly lifted me up. That's fantastic. Thank you, Kim. And Curtis and Nell write in, our daily pilgrimage along the Black Mud Creek Ravine, the hummingbird that visited our deck, flowers for dinner this week. Wow, 3 amazing things. Thank you. Oh, look at you all streaming these things in. This is great. Marilyn writes, the smiles and responses from those we greet on our walks. That's good news indeed. Virginia writes, people who have gone out of their way to help others in this difficult time. Texts, video chats, and phone calls from sisters around the world who support me in difficult times, as well as share their experiences. And online learning opportunities that keep me hopeful. Thank you, Virginia, for that. That's great. I know there's another one here, and I'm trying to access it right now, but I can't do it. Okay, that's lovely. Thank you all for those little bursts of goodness that we can share with each other. Of course, send more. We love to keep hearing more. Whenever you send more in after our time together on a Sunday, we put them in Friday's e-messenger so that we can continue sharing those. So thank you so much. Let's enjoy the beauty and the wonder of music again as we share this archive of a song that we sung more than a year ago together when we were all in this room. Sing along with it. Enjoy the sound of many voices singing together, something we haven't experienced in a while. Let's make this a time of musical joy. As we were singing in this room together, I hope that that brought you some encouragement to sing and to see what is before you in a balanced way, to see from your roots and in the dark and from the topmost branches in the airy sunlight. Our wishes this morning are with Nancy, who's taking a well-deserved couple of weeks break, and she and Dawn are traveling. They are in Naramata this week and enjoying the heat and the sunshine there, and our wishes go with them, of course. Thanks to those in the room this morning, for Micah, who's on the piano, for the two Pams who are leading vocals this morning, and to Dara and Brett, giving us technical support. We couldn't do this without the volunteers that are here and making this happen, and are so grateful to them. Just a few things to share with you as we invite you to our weekly check-in that's happening on Monday. That's tomorrow, Monday at 3 p.m. via Zoom. If you don't have the link to that Zoom call, you can find that in Friday's e-messenger, or contact us in any of the ways you see on your screen, and we'll get that link to you. Also want to invite your thoughts and strength to be with the SSUC board as they meet on Tuesday evening. Perhaps not to make any final decisions, but to start that conversation about what a relaunch might look like for SSUC, how in-person gatherings might continue in the fall or in the winter, and to start those conversations. So the board meets on Tuesday evening, and we value your input, but also value your commitment to hold us in your hearts. Want to give you a reminder about the Expressing Wonder Conference that's happening October the 2nd to 4th, virtually hosted by SSUC Saskatoon on Zoom. There are ways that you can find out lots of information, including guest speakers and sessions, and your ability to register is there at the website as well. So encourage you to do that and to visit us. If that is not something you're comfortable with registering online, please visit the office on a Thursday between 10 and 1, and we can help you register here in the office. For all the ways that we contribute to the work of SSUC and to the way that we're able to continue to offer this live stream and other things that we're able to offer through the week, we are so grateful. So for those of you who have been donating, we thank you. If you would like to donate to SSUC to continue the good work that we do, not only in what you see here on a video once a week, but in our continued commitments to agencies and commitments across our country and across our world. We give thanks for all the ways that you're able to support that. As we prepare to continue with the rest of our day and go into our week, we will strengthen our intentions to do that together as spiritual community. And so I invite you to join with the words that you see on your screen as we share them. Into the living of our days, may we be inspired by one another to embody a resilient spirit and a positive spirituality that reflects our highest and best selves. May we see, hear, touch, taste, smell, and intuit the sacredness that is all around us. May we find wisdom in our stories, music, and experiences that encourage us. Let's continue to be moved to shoulder one another's burdens, share each other's joys, and empower one another to live with love, respect, trust, and honor. May it be so. And so we change the light that changes depending what tree we're in, depending on our viewpoint, we change the light to what it might become. Not gone, but different. Different to experience in a new way. May that be the wisdom for us as we go into this week. May we go into it with new eyes, with eyes open to all things, and especially to the light that shines and the wind that blows, that brings us encouragement and peace. So until we see each other next, may you be well and go in peace.